Representative Jones is recognized for House Bill 1380, and Chairman Insco will present the chair.
This is House Bill 1380, and Representative Jones is recognized.
Thank you, Madam. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 1380 is a pretty simple bill. There are 13 states in the United States that has made marijuana legal for medical purposes. There are people who have serious illnesses, extreme pain and suffering. Marijuana has been shown and demonstrated undisputed science and medicine has demonstrated to ease pain, to ease suffering. Diseases such as glaucoma, various types of cancer. It stops nausea and vomiting. It enhances the quality of life of people who are sick. It prolongs life. Basically, it's a medication that's used in 13 states and has been demonstrated throughout the, it's been clearly demonstrated. And now, say in California and Oregon, you actually have people who have used it for the last 10 to 12 years, and it's clearly shown an improvement in their health and a supplement to chemotherapy. The bottom line is that the biology and the science and the chemistry is undisputed relative to the medical benefits of marijuana. Now, why do we need this bill? We need this bill because federal law prohibits marijuana use. It's illegal, criminal statutes penalize individuals for doing so. So that's why we need this bill. Who's being prosecuted? Sick people, people who are ill, who are trying to get some type of relief, are being prosecuted. There are 3 cases I want to mention. The United States versus Oakland Cannabis Buyers Cooperative. People who use marijuana for medical purposes cannot use as a defense medical necessity. That's what the Supreme Court established in that case because of the federal law. Secondly, Gonzalez versus Rack. The feds can arrest and prosecute patients. Now, one case that was very interesting, and I think very telling, was Cannon versus Walker, where that case, the Supreme Court indicated that doctors cannot be prosecuted for recommending marijuana for medical purposes. As you know, the doctors, they take a sworn oath to, above all else, to protect and enhance the quality of life for people relative to their health. So that's why this legislation is needed, because it is illegal. Now, some recent events have occurred. Let me just say one other thing. This particular medicine, if it's legalized for medical purposes, will be treated just as any other medicine. A physician would have to recommend or prescribe this medication for his or her patient. A physician, your physician, or physicians right here in North Carolina would have to prescribe it. So I want to make that very clear. And that physician would prescribe it based on his diagnosis or prognosis of that person's health status. So I want to make that very clear. And 1 or 2 other points. The way the legislation is set up, and I've sort of done a summary passed out. I don't know whether you all have a summary, but just 1 or 2 things. And we didn't go out and try to reinvent the wheel. There are 13 states that we can mold the legislation and clear up any mistakes that may have been made in other states. And I think the legislation that's proposed would do that. The Department of Health and Human Services would issue a license, and there was for a dispensary. Dispensaries are, pharmacies, etc., where people would go and pick up the marijuana that was prescribed or recommended by the physician. And those dispensaries would be charged an annual fee. And that annual fee is $2,000. You also have the growers or the producers. And they employ people, etc. Those producers or growers would have an annual fee of $1,000. Also, in order to prevent people from being prosecuted who are patients, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services would issue a card to that patient. Of course, the Department of Health and Human Services would receive the recommendation from the doctor that this person should be allowed to use marijuana in order to help that condition. So it would get this card, so if the police or sheriff or anyone stopped that individual, they would show the card. Also, that's a $10 fee. Also, some people are so sick, and their illness is so, devastating that they can't get around or go to a doctor. They have a caregiver. So therefore, the caregiver can also get a card and possess more marijuana in order to provide that to the patient. And so I just want, and there are some other details, but that's basically how it would work. And if you keep in mind that if it's used just like any other drug that would be recommended or prescribed by your physician, that's how this would work.
You want to have the staff add more? I want to make sure that the committee members have a chance to ask questions and that you have a chance to, go ahead.
Okay, let me do that now, but I'm pretty much finished. I do want to acknowledge the presence of Representative Mackey, who's the primary sponsor, and also Representative Harrison is not here, but I did want to recognize those two individuals who are primary sponsors around longer than myself. And if there are any questions from the committee.
Thank you. Does the staff have anything up to add? Okay, Sean Parker's just going to comment briefly.
Just very quickly, beyond some of the mechanisms that Representative Jones mentioned in the bill, there are protections and restrictions that are in the bill that are worth mentioning. The bill provides for protection to practitioners, practitioner, nurse, and pharmacists, not only from the criminal aspect, but from any civil penalty or disciplinary action from their board or occupational licensing board. There are provisions for a qualified patient or designated caregiver based on that status being in the program not to be denied school enrollment, employment opportunities, or for entering into a lease agreement, which should not reflect on their custodial rights based on status of being in the program. A few restrictions that are worth noting are the Act would not permit the operation of a motor vehicle, aircraft, or motorboat while impaired. The undertaking of a task under the influence of the medical marijuana, which could still constitute negligence or professional malpractice. The bill would not allow smoking marijuana in a public place, such as on a school bus or in public transportation, school grounds, or in a correctional facility or anywhere else where smoking is prohibited. The Act does not require medical assistance to cover or private health insurance to reimburse the cost associated with the program or with the use, and nor would it require an employer to accommodate the medical use in the workplace, and the remainder is business.
Thank you. Representative Carmen?
Thank you. A question for the bill sponsor, Mr. Chairman. Representative Jones, in the 13 other states, you talked about how this marijuana is dispensed. What forms does it come in? Is it liquid, PO, or how?
It would be in the smoking form. And the reason for that is that all the research and data that's undisputed indicates that in its pure smoking form is where it's most effective and has the greatest impact on the person's health. If they have cancer or any other illness, glaucoma, or whatever.
Representative Avalon?
And let me tell you one of them.
Go ahead.
We also have information that show that this will generate approximately $60 million annually after a 2 or 3 year period. That will be the revenue.